Hello and welcome to all delegates present here today for the Startup Summit 2021. My name is Ranjani, and it gives me great pleasure to talk to you a little bit about one of my favorite topics about Singapore and how it is and how it can be your gateway to Asia, especially in the current circumstance that we are all living in right now. Just to give you a quick overview on what we'll actually be going through. For those of you who are not familiar with Singapore, we'll actually touch on the history, and then we'll talk about how Singapore is today, and speak about some of the free trade agreements that we have, and what are the schemes that we have for businesses who are actually looking to come here, and some statistical highlights and startups that have been funded, etc. Before we close with what you can actually do or how we can actually help you to set up something in Singapore. So for those of you who are not aware, our economic history of Singapore, as many of you might know, some of you might not know, in the 60s, Singapore is a very young country, and we became independent as our own republic only in 1965. During that period, it was a period of great uncertainty, just like what we're facing today, but very different times in that period, where unemployment was a key issue, and I think there was language issues. Singapore was not such a high literacy and high literate and English-speaking country. In the 70s, industrial development was actually surging ahead, and Singapore was already touted in the world to be one of the quick operational startup location, and so many factories were actually built here in advance. In the 80s, we saw EDB actually co-establishing institutions of technology, and we had companies from Europe to meet and we got people from Europe to actually meet the specialized manpower. And in the 90s, we actually moved up the value chain, and we grew from strength to strength, and more industries were actually added into the list. In the millennium, the economy of Singapore is actually now a highly developed free market economy, and we are a major foreign direct investment financer in the world. So, and as many of you know, we are extremely safe politically, and we have, our crime rate is very, very low. So we'll discuss that during the later part of the slides. So how is Singapore today? I mean, the world has gone through a lot of uncertainty last year. And despite that, Singapore's GDP growth is expected to grow 4% to 6% in 2021. And we have put aside almost 100 billion or 20% of the GDP to counter the impact of the virus. And there has been more new business entities, believe it or not, as opposed to 2020 that have actually set up an entity in Singapore despite the recession. So we've actually done very well for ourselves, and the government has helped us with a slew of measures. Obviously, we are still one of the most connected countries in the world. Just like everywhere else, travel is extremely restricted, but our heart and core of the country is in tourism and business opportunities, trade shows, etc. So we are a gateway not just to Asia, but we are also typically a gateway to the world, as I tell many. So why Singapore as a gateway to Asia, right? We service not just your needs in Singapore, but also for the wider APAC region. Our country is also home to 500 financial institutions or more, and we have very deep and liquid capital markets. So we are a key funding source for not just, for you to grow your business here domestically in Singapore, but also for the broader Asia region. Many of you might not know this, but Singapore is regarded as the Switzerland of the East. We are a huge wealth management hub, and so therefore you have this huge access to all these regional investment opportunities that otherwise you may not get elsewhere. We are also in Asia projected to require 1.7 trillion of infrastructure investments. So basically, our framework and our very robust regulatory framework actually, it helps to facilitate this, and therefore it will be able to help you to do a lot of infrastructure financing to catalyze projects in Asia. And with our strategic location in the heart of the Indo-Pacific, we do have a long history as a trade and transport hub. And obviously, we do have the best airport in the world, one of the best harbor in the world. And we used to have more than 6,000 flights pass pre-COVID through Singapore Changi Airport every week. Again, unfortunately, that's not the case today, but we are expecting things to pick up once the vaccines have all come in, and we hope to see travel resume to what it was before. And from perishable food to industrial products, our country is well positioned to serve as a regional manufacturing and distribution center in Asia. Over the past 5 decades, many Singapore companies have developed many supply chain networks across APAC. And so we are able to partner you for many cross-border logistics and payment solutions for both B2B and B2C businesses. And as you know, Southeast Asia is the third largest populated place after China and India. And with the digital economy, I think, and with fintech growing rapidly in all these parts of the world, Asia in itself presents an exciting prospect for startups, corporates, and investors. And so Smart Nation is a nationwide initiative by the Singapore government where we galvanize both public and private sectors. And we harness ICT and big data to create really good tech-enabled solutions. So, we are very, very well versed in smart devices, wireless communication, cloud infrastructure, and cybersecurity. Singapore is also home, and we are a regional host to many platforms, hackathons, and pitch competitions. So and all this obviously was extremely thriving and vibrant in person with the numerous trade shows that we used to have pre-COVID, and we hope to see all of that back very soon. And due to all of the above, you will see that many foreign startups are actually looking to set up either their regional head office or their startup, or maybe even moving their global headquarters to Singapore. And they do work with a diversity of mentors, partners, and investors in this region. And we are also home to many resources. So once you're here, you can actually try to tap into the accelerators, incubators, and investor networks that you actually have available in Singapore. So we do have a strong network of international agreements. I mean, I did touch on this in the agenda earlier. Basically, we are one of the most open trading nations in the world. So, and why do I say that? We have 76. I mean, we have signed literally 76 avoidance of double taxation agreements, including those with China, ASEAN, India, and also Canada. We also have 42 investment guarantee agreements that includes Canada and US, along with the rest of the countries, and free trade agreements with 32 trading partners. And this includes ASEAN, US, China, India, Sri Lanka, the Gulf, Japan. So if you see the list there, it's literally the whole world, except maybe, and I think Africa is in the process of being negotiated at the moment. The CPTPP, or the Trans-Pacific Agreement, was actually concluded on 23rd January in Tokyo, and it was signed in 2018. So, so Singapore actually ratified the. Sorry about that. We actually ratified the CPTPP on 19th July 2018, and we were the third nation to do so after. So, I'll just touch on some of the larger free trade agreements we have. So the US-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, basically some of the key benefits that we have is elimination of all tariffs for Singapore's exports to the US. And I understand that quite a number of you who are attending the summit comes from the US. So this would be very beneficial to you. You will also have the waiver of the merchandise processing fee for Singapore-originated products. The tariff preference is actually given based on importer's declaration, and there is no application required. It'll also safeguard your market access, and you'll ensure a more predictable operating environment. There is also protection for Singapore investors and investments in the US. Um, for the EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, obviously, there's another one that's being negotiated with the UK specifically after Brexit. But basically, you have elimination of all custom duties. So 84%, and it came into force in November 2019, so about a year and a month ago. So 84%, what it says is of Singapore exports will enter the EU duty-free. So that includes Asian foods, products, electronics, pharmaceuticals, petrochemicals, etc. And from the third to the fifth year, the tariffs for the remaining products will also be removed. So this includes selected meat and seafood produce, fruits, textiles, and consumer goods. There is also a liberal and flexible rule of origin for Singapore products. So key products originating in Singapore, which is either produced or processed, will be actually able to enter the EU tariff-free. So with the ASEAN cumulation, meaning any material that you source from ASEAN member states would also be deemed as operating or originating from Singapore. Now, this is really beneficial because typically you have a lot of companies who actually have an office here, but they have their operating office or their factories in Thailand or Malaysia or in any one of the ASEAN markets. And so with this cumulation, you can actually tap into the EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement by just having an office here and yet looking for maybe more affordable locations for your factory and stuff. So it works out extremely well. And, obviously with Hong Kong, there's always that tug of war between should we, set up a company in Hong Kong or should we set up a company in Singapore? I guess, especially in recent times, Singapore has proven to be more and more stable in terms of setting something up, although Hong Kong is, equally competitive. So this is a little bit of a ranking that with some latest figures where you can see how closely that Singapore and Hong Kong is ranked together. But in some places, Singapore is a little bit far higher, like in the most, competitive economy, we are ranked number one. And in registering a property, we are ranked number 21. And enforcing contracts. Now, this is one of the main reasons why many like to come here because, contracts are enforceable here and we are rated number one. Whereas HK's rank is about 31 in that. And obviously security is a big deal, which, we are ranked very, very high. Public sector performance, transparency. So Singapore is actually a very transparent place to do business. So you would be able to actually see that from the numbers that you have there. One of the biggest things in Singapore is our government is extremely, supportive of government grants and schemes for new companies coming here. Especially if you have like a minimal local shareholding, you can actually get access to a slew of grants that might be available. So in that sense, I thought I'll just quickly touch on some of it. So if you're a new company means if you've already been operating for a while in your home country, but you want to come and set up a startup or a private limited in Singapore, then you get a slew of grants, which includes your startup SG founder, SG Tech. This is for commercialization of innovative technologies. You have the SG Accelerator. So basically, it's to nurture startups. So it's cost of developing programs that actually help startups to develop some new products and services, and mentoring startups as well. So you can actually get some money to hire mentors and to provide some kind of a technical guidance. You also have the startup SG equity that aims to stimulate the private sector and investments into innovative Singapore-based technology startups. You have the SG infrastructure, and you also have the SG loans. So you have the working capital loans, your fixed assets, venture debt, trade loans, etc. So if you want, I'm happy to answer any questions offline for any of these grants. There's also more if you're looking for talent. Visas are really good here as well. So you do have the entrepreneur pass, where you have funding from a government recognized VC or a business angel. This will, get you to come in on an entree pass. or if you're an innovator where you have a patented intellectual property, or you have a research collaboration with an institute of higher learning, that might qualify you. Or if you're an investor and you do have a very good investment track record. Then you have the TIA program, where it supports local SMEs by seconding A-star research engineers to develop and implement innovative processes into R&D projects. And you also have funding support. If you bring in a research scientist or an engineer, then you could tap into some of these TIA grants. Then you have the Global Ready Talent Program. So you have local and overseas internships, management associate programs. So if you do decide to do something like that, where you hire Singaporeans, then you will be able to get 70% of the qualifying costs. Tech at SG is actually to help fast-growing companies access critical talent. So you will get you can get up to 10 new employment passes, or the EPs, over 2 years for foreign employees as part of your company's core team in Singapore. So very good grants to get you going. And then when you're in the early to mid stage of your productivity, you do have some great grants to help you, such as your training and development grant, and you also have some tech solutions, such as your iSprint and automation support packages that really helps you. And then if you want to go into operations here, you would have your SME microloan, then you have working capital loans, insurances, where you have some insurance schemes, and tax exemptions as well for startups. So 75% exemption on the first $100,000 of your income, and then you would have a further 50% on the next 100,000. So it's pretty interesting. And then for HR, obviously you do have a lot of training and upgrading grants that the government is providing. So you have up to 90% of your course fees that could be covered, and then you also have your enhanced training support packages, which also covers you from 90% of the cost. And as for if you decide you want to expand to overseas, which means it's to the Asia Pacific, like how the whole presentation is also about, you do have market readiness grants, which is 70% eligible costings for market assessment and PR and marketing. Purchasing assets there, you can actually look at buying some of this, and they would be able to help you. Mergers and acquisitions, and as well as some of the loan insurance schemes that you have. Just bear in mind, a lot of these grants, maybe not the tax ones, but a lot of the other grants actually require you to have local shareholding, which is, probably, I think at the moment, I think they require, we can speak more offline on this, but, it will have a minimal, with proper exit clauses and stuff like that set up, you should be able to look into this part of it. For loans and insurance, enterprise, you do have quite a bunch of it, like the enterprise financing scheme, your temporary bridging loan program, you have the international finance scheme, and loan insurance, political risk, trade credit insurance scheme. So all of these actually help you and to protect your business as you set up over here. So basically, how has Singapore responded to COVID-19, right? So we have spent more than $2 billion, and we've created close to 100,000 jobs, traineeships, and training opportunities. And how did we do this? Basically, we created 40,000 new jobs, with 15,000 offered by the public sector and 25,000 offered by the private. There were almost 21,000 traineeships to help local first-time job seekers. There were 4,000 traineeships to help local unemployed, and there were 30,000 job seekers who could upgrade their skills along with training allowances. There was an enhanced hiring incentive, and there was also financing support for promising startups. So it was really, really helpful during that period. It saved a lot of jobs, and many companies, it really eased the burden for a lot of the companies. Some statistical highlights from, we got this from the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority. Basically in 2019, if you see the numbers here, by end December, I think we had set up close to 143, and if you see in 2020, it was 144,000. So if you see the numbers here, you would realize that we have done pretty well, and despite COVID, we did see a lot of companies wanting to come here. I'm sorry, to actually set up their businesses and to do business in Singapore. Some of the funded startups, Grab is the equivalent of Uber in Singapore and Asia. They got almost 4.5 billion. Then you had Lazada, which is your local version of Amazon, Garena, AirTrunk, and so all these startups have actually managed to get some very good traction in this area. So why Singapore? So just to quickly recap, obviously we are strategically located. We have numerous free trade agreements, and we are rated #1. We have all these double tax and free trade and agreements. We have large and liquid stock market. We are the world's first for public sector performance, transport infrastructure, etc. We are rated #1 in the world for ease of doing business. We are a trailblazing economy that makes us the most developed economy in Southeast Asia. We have flexible immigration policies and professional workforce. There is also easy connectivity with best airport in the world for 20 consecutive years. And we are in the forefront of hot growth sectors, e-commerce and fintech. And why CPA? Again, CPA Partnership is one of our closest partners with the International Trade Council here, and we do provide a one-stop shop provider, and it's a trusted global network and partnership, and they're experienced professionals with over 50 years of experience in-house, and basically they're very recognized in the marketplace. You get client service, and you can focus on end-to-end offering. So if you do require a service provider to, to kind of want to set up your company and you need further information, just speak to anybody from CPA, and you should be able to get information on all end-to-end of the startups, your accounts, tax, human resource, etc. And this is some key contacts that will help you to understand that. So we have actually come to the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have on Singapore in general, and any business related questions as well. Hope you found it informative, and thank you very much for tuning in.